our listeners have probably been following this MAGA coalition meltdown over Jeffrey Epstein, the now deceased financier who had all these powerful connections that he used to get away with sexually abusing underage women. If you want more details about the case and kind of like what Trump's base is saying, why they're so mad, check out any of the 400 Pod Save America YouTubes that Favreau and I have done in the last week or so. Yeah, it was just it was impossible not to do it. The gist, though, is that Trump and his team, they promised to release the so-called Epstein files and details about Epstein's like kind of co-conspirators. And now we're saying, actually, there are none. None will be forthcoming. But today we wanted to dig into why this has become an international incident and why, and that is stemming from this belief in conservative circles that Jeffrey Epstein was either an Israeli intelligence agent or an asset or, financier, some connection with Israeli intelligence. Here's Tucker Carlson kind of laying out the theory at the Turning Point USA Summit in Florida last week.
And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed. You're like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that.
So obviously an explosive claim, and just with the caveat that some people kind of pushing this line are have a tendency to blame the Jews for everything, like all the time.
No kidding.
We want to take the charge seriously, kind of look at the evidence and try to understand if it's even like kind of logically possible that the Mossad would use someone like Epstein. So forgive me for the sort of the length of this, but there's basically like three pieces of evidence that are usually pointed to support this claim. The first is that Robert Maxwell, who's the father of Epstein's former partner and accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving time in prison. She got 20 years in this case.
Well-earned 20 years.
Well-earned 20 years. Yeah, Robert Maxwell is rumored to have worked for the Mossad himself. He also was rumored to have worked for the MI6 and the Soviets and others, but Mossad was sort of like the thing he was often attached to in the press. Maxwell, he escaped the Nazis. He fought for the British during World War II. Afterwards, he built this powerful publishing and media conglomerate that at its peak had like 16,000 staff. He served in parliament in the 60s and 70s. And then so he's a powerful guy, but he died under what many people consider suspicious circumstances in 1991 after he fell off his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, which is off the Canary Islands. Yeah. Some people believe that the Mossad killed him. That theory was featured in a book called Robert Maxwell, Israel's Super Spy. After his death, it came out that he had stolen around $500 million from his company's employee pension fund to prop up his business empire. So obviously that could be a reason
other people might want to kill that
off
guy
yourself,
too,
or be killed. But when he was alive, Maxwell strongly denied working for the Mossad, and he threatened legal action against those who said he did. Though, after he passed away, his funeral was attended by Israeli, heads of state. He was buried on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. So it's like there's a lot of like kind of fodder people point at and say, look at connections. The second piece of evidence is that former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak frequently met with Jeffrey Epstein, visited his properties, flew in his jet, received investment money from his foundations. The Wall Street Journal reported a lot of these details in 2023, but some of it was known back in 2019 around Epstein's arrest. And then the third piece of evidence, which Megyn Kelly in particular has kind of like touted, is that while being vetted to serve as Trump's first-term Secretary of Labor, Alexander Acosta allegedly explained away the unconscionably lenient plea deal he gave to Epstein back in 2007, 2008, by when he was U.S. Attorney in Miami, by saying that he had been told to back off of Epstein because Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence. Now, I believe that quote was reported in one place. It was the Daily Beast. It was hearsay even then. The journalist who reported it at the time has since said she doesn't think that Epstein was tied to the Mossad. But Acosta didn't exactly help himself when he was asked about this, and he gave this bizarre answer to a reporter at a press conference.
Terry, were you ever made aware at any point in your handling of this case if Mr. Epstein was an intelligence asset of some sort?
So there has been reporting to that effect, and let me say there's been reporting to a lot of effects in this case, not just now but over the years, and again, I would hesitate to take this reporting as fact. I can't address it directly because of our guidelines, but I can tell you that a lot of reporting is just going down rabbit holes. A few more questions.
That clears it up. So
tailor-made to perpetuate a conspiracy theory.
Exactly. And I get he probably had made all kinds of agreements where he couldn't talk about evidence in the case, but still, that was disastrous. On Monday, the former Prime Minister of Israel, Naftali Bennett, tweeted his long Twitter denial of the accusation that Epstein worked for or ran a blackmail ring on behalf of the Mossad. He called it categorically and totally false. He singled out Tucker Carlson for spreading it. I'm not even going to get into the claims that people were making on Twitter about FBI Director Kash Patel's girlfriend. They're saying that she's part of the Mossad because it's so...
Because the conspiracy theory has to keep growing.
Yeah, it has to keep growing. It's just clearly baseless, though it is very funny that the argument essentially is, why would this hot girl date this ugly guy if it wasn't a honeypot? That is the gist of what they're saying. Sorry for the long wind-up. Ben, what do you think? What's your take on these theories? Is he Mossad? Is he MI6? CIA? Triple agent? And do we think that, would a person like this actually be valuable to an intelligence agency? It's just because he had money, because he had connections. I don't know. How do you think about it?
I don't know, and I don't want to hazard a guess. What I'd say is this: based on what we know about Epstein, just from what's been in the public record, if this man is operating a massive child sex trafficking operation with, seems like not only is he having sex with young women, underage women, but he's making them available to rich and powerful people. He's got an island, all these things. And there are people, very rich, powerful people, politicians, global figures. I mean, just to take the people whose names are always out in the open.
Bill Clinton.
Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Bill Gates. Ehud Barak, intelligence agencies, any really good intelligence agency would know that, right? Because they'd be monitoring these people, right? And yes, part of what intelligence agencies do is they try to gather incriminating personal information about people so that they might be able to blackmail them, so that they might be able to go to a powerful person and say, hey, we know that you were doing X at Jeffrey Epstein's island. If you don't want that in the press, I'm answering your question of hypothetically what might be the interest.
Yeah, of course. No.
And that would be the interest.
No, clearly, none of us know, so we're just speculating.
No, but that would be the interest. And that's an obvious interest. Of course, intelligence agencies, that's what they often do. They try to get information on people to turn them or try to get them to do things, right? Or to just try to have a way to make people... you want them to back off something. We're investigating something about you. Hey, if you guys keep poking around here, we could put this stuff out about you. That's the game of intelligence here. And this is actually why, to kind of join the weird chorus of voices here, there needs to be more transparency. The whole world does know that there were a lot of powerful people who were connected to something very odious here, and it doesn't. These pieces seem to add up to something more than what we've been told. Yeah. And so I actually think there really is a great interest here in transparency, right? And it may or may not validate your preferred conspiracy theory, but there's something, the more you seem to back off this thing, the more you're just going to feed and fuel these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I think there's a great interest in getting more information. Historically speaking, we know that kind of honeypot or sexual-based kind of blackmail operations has been something that a number of intelligence services done.
And I'm sure, by the way,
the US.
And I'll just say it, I'm sure the Mossad has done it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure others have done it too. Russian intelligence has certainly done it.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But I think your bigger picture point is the important one. There has to be more transparency just because people that are kind of steeped in this stuff, just have a lot of reasons not to trust the U.S. government. I don't know the truth here either, but literally this week, the Washington Post reported on new documents unearthed by the House of Representatives about the JFK assassination. And these documents prove that the CIA has been lying about its connection with Lee Harvey Oswald for 60 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of this was suspected and reported on, but these documents prove that a CIA officer based in Miami in 1963 was helping finance and oversee a group of students opposed to Fidel Castro. And the CIA lied about the existence of this guy to the Warren Commission in 1964, to Congress in 1978, and to a special commission on assassinations in 1998. And even shadier, Ben, in 78, this same guy who was running these the students in Miami was named the CIA liaison to the congressional committee trying to dig into the Kennedy assassination and get documents from the CIA. And then he stonewalled them and was obstructing them. And then he was given an award by the CIA, like a Lifetime Achievement Award by the agency in 1981. So like clearly, like it's not just that, like these aren't like ancient sins by the CIA. This, like, yes, this shit happened in the 60s, but the lying about it has been until present day.
Yeah. And this connects to the Epstein thing in this way, which is that there's kind of two different reasons why you stonewall information being released. Sometimes it's because there really is a conspiracy. There's something really nefarious that you're trying to cover up. Sometimes it's because you're just embarrassed, you know?
Exactly.
And so with the Oswald stuff, some of this is, it's pretty embarrassing that this fucking guy like was able to shoot the president of the United States like right after he'd, you know, walked into the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico. Like, why wasn't anybody kind of picking this thing up? But that's not a good reason to cover shit up either. No. And it perpetuates this. I imagine, if I had to guess, that part of the stuff in the Epstein files is it's fucking embarrassing for everybody involved. Maybe the Mossad, maybe Donald Trump, maybe Bill Clinton, maybe, you know, list your person. I don't know because I haven't seen the documents, but like not having transparency because something is embarrassing is what makes people cynical. It makes people think that powerful interested institutions don't give a shit about them. One other thing I want to say that was interesting, that Tucker clip, just build on what we said last week, the inability to have the conversations about this stuff. The crowd kind of went nuts when he said Israel, right?
I know.
Like if you don't allow space to talk about like the real stuff, you're going to have more and more conspiracy. Whatever the issue is, whether it's Israel or whether it was the fucking Kennedy assassination, like, you know, covering stuff up because it's embarrassing or because it's politically awkward to talk about, like it drives people to extremes.
Yep. Okay, that was an excerpt of Pod Save the World, the show I do with Ben Rhodes every week about the biggest stories in national security, both in Washington and abroad. Please subscribe to Pod Save the World. It's a great show. You can get everything you need to know in one episode per week. But also, please subscribe to Pod Save America here on YouTube. We are trying to fight a battle against right-wing outlets that have huge followings on YouTube. And when people search for political news in YouTube, they get fed content from places like The Daily Wire or TPUSA that is just right-wing garbage. And we're trying to get good, factual information from a progressive perspective into the algorithm. And when you subscribe to Pod Save America, you help us do that. So thank you.